An ideal assessment evaluates how well a student applies a skill to a real problem, which then demonstrates mastery of that skill. Oftentimes, teachers ask questions in which students are supposed to give the correct answer. While sometimes this knowledge-based assessment is necessary and appropriate, it often does not address standards. Multiple choice questions do not provide a reliable measurement of student skill mastery or of their content knowledge. Application-based projects provide a much better vehicle for students to apply skills and knowledge. Having students tackle real-world issues, often called authentic problems, while practicing and applying skills and knowledge is a much better way to gauge comprehension than multiple choice questions. And one of the best ways to structure a project is the rubric.
In education, a rubric is a framework of skills that a student is expected to develop and demonstrate, each of which is divided into levels of quality. Let's look at a simple example. Let's say that the unit you are teaching is how to change a tire. A good way to start designing your rubric is to begin at the end. This is called backward design. What would you need to see in a perfect tire change? Certainly you would want the flat tire removed and the new tire put on, but break it down into the individual skills necessary. The car must not be moving. The parking brake should be engaged, and a manual transmission should be in first gear or in reverse. The appropriate tires would need to be immobilized. The jack would need to be removed and assembled properly. The jack would need to be placed properly. The jack would need to be raised to support but not yet lift the car. All of the lug nuts would need to be loosened. The jack would then need to be further raised to lift the car. All of the lug nuts would need to be removed and placed in a safe place. The tire would need to be removed and placed flat on the ground under the frame of the car, and so on. The list of skills become the criteria that run down the left-hand side of your rubric chart. You can use an abbreviated phrase to indicate the skill, but be sure the language is clear to students. Let's take placing the jack as an example. We'll call this jack placement. When you change a tire, the jack needs to be placed on a firm, flat surface, free of debris or material that can slip. The jack should not be angled or lean. The jack should also be placed properly on the frame, either where it is marked with a jack notch or where it is indicated in the driver's manual. If one were to describe perfect jack placement, one might say, the jack is on a firm, flat, non-slip surface, is not angled, and is placed properly on the frame. Now let's take the opposite end of the spectrum. How might you describe a failed jack placement? The jack is not on an appropriate surface, is angled, and is placed improperly on the frame. Now you have the two polar ends of your continuum of jack placement, from clearly showing the student does not know how to do it, to clearly showing the student has mastered this skill. Next, find middle ground. What is a common, average, and not quite up to par way of placing a jack? Well, the jack must be on a firm, flat, non-slip surface. If it's not, the results could literally be deadly. Improperly aligning the jack on the frame, or a slight lean, might result in a successful tire change. So we make a middle indicator. The jack is on a firm, flat, non-slip surface, but is angled and/or is placed improperly on the frame. Now you have a three-level rubric for jack placement. For a child to successfully attain a mastery level of achievement, the child must show that he or she understands all three of the major parts of jack placement as you described it. This is a basic rubric. A terrific feature of rubrics, however, is that you can expand them to include additional levels. I like to include a level 0. The student could not or did not attempt to place the jack.
This gives you a level for students who do not participate or who lack the basic skills necessary for success in this instance. This helps the student by showing that no attempt equals no credit, and helps the instructor by clearly indicating that the teacher has to show students how to locate, remove, assemble, and place the jack before the students are ready to demonstrate this skill.
The Madeline Hunter model of showing students how to do this, doing it with the students, then having students practice by themselves, becomes one clear approach that could occur in the teacher's instruction. If you're an experienced mechanic, that might seem very obvious to you, but when we are teaching skills to students and provide a rubric in advance that clearly shows them the things they need to know and the ways in which they need to know them, learning is scaffolded, becomes clearer, and may become easier. I especially like adding levels above and beyond. By adding a level to the top of your rubric that goes above and beyond your expectations, you build in natural differentiation for your exceptional learners. The jack is on a completely solid, completely flat, non-slip surface, is exactly perpendicular to the frame, is placed exactly on the frame, and the student rechecked the jack placement at least once. Let's say that the angle of the jack is the one thing you found your students struggle with. You might consider breaking that item out into a separate rubric. Here's a rubric for jack angle. The jack was exactly 90 degrees perpendicular to the frame. The jack was perpendicular to the frame plus or minus 2 degrees. Close, but not quite. The jack was perpendicular to the frame plus or minus 5 degrees. This is even more incorrect. The jack was more than 5 degrees out of perpendicular to the frame, well outside what you would expect. And finally, the student could not or did not attempt to place the jack. Now, I am not suggesting that you always need 5 levels. Indeed, you may choose to omit level 0 as it may be implicit. You may also not feel that there is a need to add an above and beyond rubric for some projects. Many sets of national standards use 3 levels: beginner, intermediate, and advanced, or basic, proficient, and advanced. In the case of 4 levels, your labels might be beginner, developing, proficient, and master. It is important to provide students with plain language descriptions for each item. Use simple and clear phrases that are not open to interpretation. This not only helps guide your learners and makes your grading process easier, but clarifies your policy and practice for parents and for administrators. The question, why did I get this grade, is answered not only in the assessment, but more importantly, during the course of instruction. Good assessment is an integral component of instruction during learning, not just a way of checking learning after the fact.
Remember, focus your rubric design on skills, not on facts, and always reference the state and national standards for your content area. By taking the time to carefully craft a rubric, you are creating a standards-based, differentiated, authentic framework for instruction and assessment, which can become the cornerstone of your teaching. Once you have created an excellent rubric, it can serve as a model for future rubrics and can be revised and reused each time you teach the material. It is a living document, able to be updated, modified, and combined. By using that rubric before, during, and after instruction to show students what they will learn, help them learn it, and show what they have learned and to what degree, you will have a more informed and more effective classroom instruction. For help creating rubrics, or to see examples of other teachers' existing rubrics, Google Rubistar, R-U-B-I-S-T-A-R, or visit rubistar.forteachers.org. Finally, be reflective. Think about what your students are learning and how you will know that they're learning it. You have an entire team of professionals, mentors, teacher leaders, and veteran teachers who can help support your lesson design and classroom instruction. For Battlefield High School, I'm Keith Reeves, the instructional technologist. Good luck.